Leanne, I'd like to talk to you about Connect now, and as we're talking, at some point this week we're going to get to 100,000 electronic handovers using Connect. And considering that we started on the 4th of December, I remember the date well. What do you think that's actually meant in terms of nursing and clinical practice?
Consistency is probably the word that springs to mind, and it's really interesting because I didn't write the program, but I instigated a similar program when I was at Papworth, making sure that we could have an auditable trail of the information that was handed over between shifts, as opposed to that scrappy bit of paper that everybody writes everybody's names on that are a GDPR risk. But actually, you had nothing. I couldn't say Andy told me this yesterday. And it's not to be defensive, but actually it just provides, to keep going back to that word, is consistency. So today I've done X with Mr. or Mrs. so-and-so, and then my colleague that follows knows exactly what's happened and can pick up where that I kind of left off. And that's key in terms of safety in practice, but also from a patient experience point of view, not being asked the same question 5 or 6 times over by each different member of staff. There's also something about that multi-professional working. So, in terms of having that handover from a physio or an OT in the same place as the doctor, as the nurse, you can see about all those elements of practice and how they're supporting the patient. So there should be no confusion or little overlap between them, unless it's important to have that kind of overlap. So 100,000 is quite remarkable in such a short space of time, and I'm sure that will continue to grow.
It's interesting that you mention about bits of paper. As you know, our CNIO Dion has this phrase around getting paper out of pockets. As we think about scanning our paper records and moving all those other aspects, what's that going to mean to nursing practice in particular?
So paper out of pockets is a great phrase, and certainly when I did my training, we weren't allowed to write any patient name or detail down. So kind of GDPR in action right back then. And actually over time people became more and more reliant on a handover sheet and scribbled bits of notes. Actually that was said, there was no auditable trail of that information, and it's really important that we have an auditable trail of handover. So paper out of pockets is absolutely crucial. There's a massive risk, and we've faced several of those where people have dropped that list into the car park, all patient details on it, completely inappropriate. But again, going back to our earlier point about consistency, having all the records in one place allows you at a glance to see what's happened with that patient for the day, as opposed to trawling through. Some people have 3-4 sets of volumes of notes, and trying to find a history from 4 or 5 years ago is really very difficult when you've got stacks of paper. And then trying to understand somebody's handwriting, for example, is always often a challenge, or bits of paper go missing. So in terms of having a complete record, and one that incorporates all the multi-professional view of that individual, that's got to be vital to that patient's recovery. But yeah, paper out of pockets, absolutely.
If you were to say to somebody who was starting at this hospital next Monday, what the future looks like for them, how would you describe it to them?
Well, firstly, I'd say a very big welcome to Kettering General, and to hold on to your skates, because actually the amount of digital improvements we've made, or the journey that we've been making over a very, very short space of time, can only get better and grow more. I think what I would be saying is don't worry about any of that, because actually we've been supporting people from an experiential perspective, walking alongside people to use those systems. But that in terms of an aspiration perspective, those systems are there to help nursing practice grow, to learn what it does very well, to recognise when it doesn't do things particularly well, and be able to put those quality improvement plans in place, which are clearly going to form part of our journey in terms of empowerment and the voice for nursing in our next strategy. So welcome, and I hope you enjoy working here.